Hello watchers, welcome back to the channel and to today's video where I'm featuring again another brand which I have not featured on the channel before. So yes, today I have a Bulova, and to be more specific, this is the Bulova Precisionist Champlain 96B132. That is the model designation. Now, Bulova is an American watch brand, or at least used to be American owned. It has changed since then, but you know, it was established way back in 1875 as J. Bulova Company, and then in 1923 it was incorporated as the Bulova Watch Company. In 1960 they went on to establish and produce their possibly most well-known product, the Bulova Accutron, which is really the first watch at the time to base timing accuracy on the frequency of a tuning fork. And up to today, that remains the symbol of the company, the tuning fork at the 12 o'clock position there. In 2007 or early 2008, you know, unfortunately or fortunately, it was acquired by a citizen of Japan. You know, let me know what you think about that. But I've read good things. Apparently, Citizen has been quite earnest in revitalizing the company and you know, doing new things with the brand. So let me know about what you feel since the acquisition, if you've experienced before, if it's changed the brand at all. So this watch has an MSRP that's listed at $599 US, but you know, you can get this typically for less than $300 US on grey retail, various sources depending on where you go, and I'll try to link in below on the description. Now, the movement in this watch is probably the most interesting thing here. It is a precisionist Japanese quartz movement, with an accuracy that is rated at plus or minus 10 seconds per year. Now, to put that in context, a typical quartz standard is plus or minus 15 seconds per month, you know, so that's about 180 seconds per year if you take it out to the extreme. Cost accuracy with chronometer quartz, it has to produce an accuracy of plus or minus 0.07 seconds per day, and taking it out to a year, that's about 25 seconds plus or minus per year. So 10 seconds per year, that's well within that, and in the realm of mechanical watches, that would be, you know, in the range of a I guess a Rolex superlative chronometer, or you know, some of the very highly regulated watches, if you talk about mechanical equivalent, if there's such a thing. Now, in terms of how they achieve that, well, as far as I understand, they use a 3-prong quartz crystal as opposed to a 2-prong, and that allows a much higher frequency oscillation of 262 kilohertz. That's about 8 times faster than the typical quartz oscillation of around 32 kilohertz. So, you know, as I understand it, that allows you to tune it to much higher accuracy. Now, you can see already that this movement has a sweeping seconds hand, and that is remarkable in that the battery life is still rated at 3 years for a single cell, and to produce that battery life with the sweep seconds is really quite something, because quartz watches tick along 1 second at a time as partly a power saving measure. To make a sweep seconds, it uses much more power. So to get that battery life with this movement is really quite something they've achieved. Now, there is a date complication, and you can see a curved date, extended date display at the 3 o'clock position there, and I'll talk a bit about that later. Now, the case in this case is titanium. You know, that's another different thing about this. It is a 46.5 millimeter wide case, so it's pretty large. It is 14.5 millimeters thick, so pretty chunky, relatively chunky for a quartz watch. 24 millimeter lugs, so you can swap it out if you wish. And the lug to lug is 55 millimeters if you're interested in that particular measure. The case is fully brushed apart from the bezel face. You know, every surface otherwise, you can see it has a brush finish as I turn the watch around here. The case back is screw-in, you've already seen that, and with the screw-in, with the printing of the tuning fork on the crown there, screw-in crown, the water resistance is rated at 300 meters, and I think you could comfortably take this underwater swimming, even scuba diving, with those waterproof features. The dial if you can already appreciate, as I've turned it around, you can see it's a multi-layered, pretty complex carbon fiber base style. So the bottom part is carbon fiber. It's got a gray overlay on top of that, and it's got multi-layers. The markings are applied on top of that. 24-hour inner circle, you can see there with the 24-hour time there. And then it's got blue minute markings, 30, 35, etc. On the outer chapter ring there. If you look closely, I don't know if that's going to translate, but in between the minute markings on the chapter ring, you can see there's actually 1/5 of a minute, or I guess 1/5 of a second. That's a bit obsolete. You can't really use that in this watch, but I suppose if there's a chronometer with that function, with those markings, and you can stop the central seconds, you could use that for that accuracy. But in this watch, it adds a little bit of noise, maybe not too much, but it is obsolete. That's really non-functional, those 1/5 of the minute markings. Standard lume application on the hands and markers, it works okay. I'm pretty sure it's not super luminova, but it's a pretty good lume, certainly better than something more basic like Invicta uses, for example. Moving on to the bezel, it's supposed to be titanium. I can't tell, but they've achieved quite a good polish on the surface at the top. If it is titanium, titanium typically is actually difficult to achieve a polished surface on. So good on them if they've actually done that. At least a lot of websites say it's titanium. You can see the markings on the bezel. It looks like a timing bezel, like on a dive watch, right? There's minute markings on the first 20 minutes, but it's non-rotating. So that's just a bit of a negative, I think. Why put those there? Why make it look like a timing bezel when you actually can't rotate it? That's a little bit of I guess a negative, a black mark on this particular watch as I've seen it, at least in my opinion. Now the crystal is quite interesting, right? You can see it's a curve. It's not dome, it's curved. It's mineral, so unfortunately it is going to be prone to scratching, and there's already a couple of marks on there that the owner of this watch has put on it, unfortunately. But I guess I should put a shout out to James, my colleague from work, who has made this watch available for review. So thank you very much. I'm always do the best I can whenever I get material. So thank you, James, for making this available. Okay, and now moving on to the bracelet, or band in this case. This one is also interesting. They've gone for a Quadra material, nylon material band. There's titanium on the buckle. I'm pretty sure that's titanium. I don't know whether that's steel or titanium. It doesn't say. Those prong holes there. But that's I'm pretty sure that's titanium. The finishing looks like titanium. So this material is comfortable. The inner material resting on the wrist is it's perfectly comfortable as I've worn this watch. And because it's titanium, it almost disappears. It doesn't quite for me on the wrist because of its size, but it's really quite light for what it is. Now, one thing I note about the choice of material, I don't know if it translates, but you can see there is a texture there, and maybe they've chosen that to kind of play into the carbon fiber. Who really knows? But I think that's an interesting, I guess, juxtaposition there that I've noticed. Okay, so that's the description of the watch. What have I enjoyed about this particular watch? Well, I think the main thing has got to be the movement. This is a high-end precision quartz movement with incredible accuracy, really, for what it is able to produce. For the power reserve, for the sweep seconds. That's the most remarkable thing I think about this watch. The style is interesting. It's kind of like got a techno-industrial look to it, if you want to call it that. And then lastly, titanium for under 300 US. All those features, I think it's pretty good. Pretty good value. I mean, the case is not fantastically finished. It's good enough, but it is pretty standard, I guess, feel of a mass-produced watch. So you're not going to get any high horology features, but it's good enough. It's really there's nothing much to complain about in terms of the finishing, as I have seen. Now, what's not so good? Well, in general, the size is quite big. 46.5 is not suitable for everyone, and let's just put it on for the wrist shot now. Okay, so there it is on my 17-inch wrist. right? It is pretty big. It's not going to be suitable for everyone, and it's arguably, you know, pushing the limits for my particular wrist there. So, you know, not everyone will go for a watch, you know, at this size range. So that's one limitation, and because of its style, it's got its limitations as well. It's not really suitable to wear this outside, really strictly speaking, a casual situation. You know, it's really got a very sporty, casual look to it. Now, more specifically about this watch, I don't like these extended date displays. You know, yes, I think you're pretty clear that the middle date is the actual date that is indicating, but you know, why do that? I've never appreciated this. Let me know what you think about extended date displays, but I've never really been a fan of this. So that's just my personal thing about the date display. The bezel, I've already mentioned, is a negative. You know, with the markings there on a non-rotating bezel, that doesn't make sense. That's either a cop-out or you know, I guess worse would be a deception. You know, that this shouldn't be there, in my opinion. And then lastly, you know, a proud curved mineral glass in a watch that's, you know, this big and this light is kind of asking for trouble, and it already has had trouble on it with a couple of nicks that has been put on it. So, you know, that's the watch. That's what I found about this Bulova piece. Really, you know, I'm very interested in your opinions and your thoughts and experiences with Bulova, an American watch brand. Guys, if you appreciate my videos, do consider subscribing. I'm always getting new stuff and featuring it right here on the channel, aiming always to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for watching, and as always, I will catch you next time.